We spent the entire trilogy fighting and eventually eliminating the Reapers, but in the next Mass Effect, I'm pretty sure we're gonna find out that the Reapers were actually right. They weren't right about the whole killing all the Milky Way races is good part, but they were probably right about organics and synthetics inevitably fighting each other to the death. And I think we're already seeing the first glimpse of the latest synthetic war with the development of the new N7. Let's dive into why the very existence of this N7 actually proves that the Reapers were right. First off, why did the Reapers assume that organics and synthetics couldn't coexist? To figure that out, we have to start with how the Reapers were made. In Mass Effect 1, the Reapers were known to Shepard as a mysterious race of machines hell-bent on destroying all organic life in the galaxy. In 2, Shepard fought back against the Collectors, which were harvested Protheans, and whose purpose was to round up human colonists to build a human Reaper. Shepard fought against that unfinished Reaper, but they didn't know why that human harvest was necessary until they spoke with the Leviathans in Mass Effect 3. In this conversation with the Leviathans, we finally learned who made the Reapers and why they decided to harvest the Milky Way. The Leviathans revealed that, in their time, they were the apex race who lorded over so-called lesser organic species. They told Shepard that these organic species took care of their needs, and in turn, they themselves were taken care of by the Leviathans. The Leviathans enjoyed this life as the lesser species worshipped them and offered them tribute. However, in their godlike existence, the Leviathans kept running into a problem. The organic species that were beneath them kept building machines in order to live better lives, but these machines would inevitably turn on the organics and destroy them. The Leviathans found this inevitable destruction of their organic servants a nuisance, as it disrupted their own existence. So they came up with a plan. It's unclear how exactly, but the Leviathans manufactured an intelligence called the Catalyst, which Shepard eventually met in the final moments of the trilogy. The Leviathans gave this Catalyst one mandate: preserve life at any cost. They were called the Catalyst because the Leviathans envisioned them to be a literal catalyst for the coexistence of organics and synthetics. Importantly, the Catalyst emphasized to Shepard that they are not a simple artificial intelligence, but instead a collective intelligence. And so, with this purpose in mind, the Catalyst evolved to study the development of civilizations, trying multiple times to get organics and synthetics to cooperate. However, all their efforts inevitably ended in conflict and war. So upon studying various civilizations across many centuries, the Catalyst came to a singular conclusion. Organics create synthetics to improve their own existence, but those improvements have limits. To exceed those limits, synthetics must be allowed to evolve. They must, by definition, surpass their creators. The inevitable result of this evolution is conflict between the two sides, with the synthetics eventually wiping out their organic creators. And so, the Catalyst came up with a final solution, which was the Reapers. For the Catalyst, the only way to end this cycle of conflict and thus preserve life like the Leviathans ordered was to harvest these life forms before they inevitably fought each other. And so, the Reapers were born. The Catalyst attacked the Leviathans without warning and harvested them first, creating the first ever Reaper, known as Harbinger. All of the Reapers we see in the trilogy are made in the Leviathan's image because of this initial harvest. After the Leviathans were almost wiped out, the Reapers then went on to harvest the rest of the Milky Way. Once the harvest was finished, the Reapers built the Citadel and mass relays, so the next group of Milky Way races would evolve faster, thus shortening the time in between harvests. The Catalyst eventually made the Citadel its home, which is why Shepard eventually finds them there at the end of Mass Effect 3. After creating the mass relays, the Reapers then retreated to dark space outside the Milky Way, and returned every 50,000 years to harvest the galaxy over and over, preserving the life of advanced civilizations, while leaving the lesser evolved species to continue evolving. Eventually, the cycle of harvesting is thwarted by Shepard's use of the Crucible. So out of all this, we've learned that the basic purpose of the Reapers was to end the inevitable conflict between organics and synthetics. And in their eyes, organics creating synthetics to better their own existence would inevitably lead to conflict and the organics' eventual destruction. Luckily though, the Reaper's solution of cyclic harvesting was finally ended by Shepard, which was the best possible outcome. Or was it? Now obviously, harvesting organics before they inevitably made synthetics was the wrong move. However, the Reapers were right about one thing: the inevitability of organics creating synthetics that would eventually destroy them. And I think in this next Mass Effect tease, we're seeing the first glimpse of humanity's destruction with the new N7. If we think hypothetically about what the Milky Way races would do in a Reaperless galaxy, it becomes pretty clear what this N7 represents. The Reapers always arrived to harvest organics right before they began to create synthetics. This was because as soon as those synthetics were created, the clock of destruction for the organics began to tick. So in a post-Reaper War scenario, it can be assumed that the Milky Way races would do the very thing the Reapers warned Shepard about at the end of Mass Effect 3. They would start creating synthetics to better their own existence. And that's what I think this N7 represents. After the Reaper War, humanity took very large losses, Earth especially. Assuming that most of humanity's top soldiers, like Shepard, were lost in the war, I think it'd be inevitable that the Alliance would look for quick replacement soldiers, which is where the new N7 comes in. I've gone over multiple times how this new N7 resembles an artificial intelligence, and most likely a rogue one too, which would make this N7 the first Alliance-approved synthetic AI. In Mass Effect 3, Dr. Eva was a humanoid AI developed by Cerberus, and EDI eventually took the Doctor's form. However, the Alliance hadn't developed its own AI yet. This was likely because humanity respected the Council's decision of organics not creating AIs. However, in the teases for the next Mass Effect, this has clearly changed. As we've heard in the relay tease, Liara believes that humanity is doing something that would make the Council furious.
Exactly. The Council will be furious. Although they should know by now not to underestimate. I can see it differently. How did we miss this? Was the most ridiculous. Exactly. The Council will be furious.
One interpretation of this could be that humanity is disobeying the Council's ironclad rule of not creating AIs, hence why they'd be super furious at an N7 AI walking about. And to make things even crazier, it looks like the Alliance has developed this AI based on Shepard, likely only 4 years after the Reaper War. I've dived into this in depth in previous videos, but the synthetic N7 is likely based on Shepard's battle data. Very briefly, this is based on the coat being referred to by Harding, aka Liara, that it looks like something an old friend would wear. This, coupled with the name of the coat being Ghost of Battles Past, leads me to the theory that the N7 wearing this coat is Shepard in AI form, whose helmet may or may not be removable. Now, if this is the case, then it would imply that the Alliance has made an AI with Shepard's likeness, which to me says a lot about the timeline for the next game. The Alliance, after losing their #1 soldier in the war, likely wouldn't wait over 700 years to make an AI based on Shepard. They'd likely work on it right away, which also matches with the Reaper's prediction of organics creating synthetics without their harvesting intervention. In fact, because of humanity's low military strength after the war, it might make them more likely to quickly replicate an AI based on their top soldier. So because of this, I think it's very likely that the teases we've seen so far indicate a 4-year time jump, which would mean the date of this relay footage is from 2190. With the Geth being teased multiple times too, I wouldn't be surprised if the Geth playing a larger role in the Milky Way is prompted by the rise of AIs throughout the galaxy, just like the new synthetic N7. Also, just as a huge hypothetical based on my theories so far, if wormholes are a thing where the Andromeda crew travels back in time to 2190, it'd make a lot of sense why they don't travel farther back to before the Reapers attacked. If, hypothetically, synthetics are going to threaten humanity, then eliminating the Reapers sooner than 2186 would actually accelerate humanity's destruction instead of preventing it. And based on a couple other theories, if the villains in the next game are the Jardan, who may be evolved Protheans that escaped the Reapers, then we'd be directly facing antagonists who are centuries ahead of humanity in building synthetics like Remtech. So the story of the next Mass Effect might be a combination of facing synthetics that rebel against the Milky Way races, along with the Jardan using their synthetic Remtech too, which is exactly what the Reapers predicted. If the Milky Way and Andromeda storylines are going to be linked, this is the type of story that'd make us question whether or not the Reapers were actually right. Is the cycle the Reapers warned Shepard about going to be humanity's downfall in the next Mass Effect? If the next game's plot centers around synthetics betraying organics, then the long-winded talk with the Catalyst would actually be relevant instead of confusing AF. It'd be the biggest reverse Uno card the Mass Effect team could drop on us, which would honestly be hilarious irony. Huge thanks to JMail for sparking this theory idea. Hope you enjoyed it. After unpacking all of this, the real question for me is whether or not the Mass Effect team can pull off this type of interconnected story again. If they do pull it off, it'll likely be because of the very simple storytelling formula that BioWare has used throughout the entire Mass Effect trilogy. Watch this video next to see what makes up the BioWare formula, along with how it can be taken to the next level for the next Mass Effect. See you there.